Spread betting versus CFDs. So, you've been using spread betting for a while, right? And you've just heard of something called CFDs. What are they, I hear you asking, and why should I be using them myself? Well, let me take a moment to tell you. CFDs, otherwise known as the contracts for difference, are very similar to spread bets. Both products use bid and offer for their prices, allowing you to make money from both rising and falling markets. Importantly, they also both offer leveraged exposure because they are margined products. This means a small deposit can get you a decent exposure. Neither requires you to physically hold the instrument, and no shares actually change hands. This is why you don't pay stamp duty on either in the UK. Traditionally, spread bets were run on quarterly contracts, but this is no longer the case due to the introduction of rolling day contracts, which roll forward from each day to the next, and could, in theory, run on infinitely, but it is really exactly the same. However, when you look into it, there's some pretty big differences as well. The main one is tax. Profits from CFDs are taxable, while those for spread bet gains aren't. That might seem like a big drawback, but there's a flip side. Losses on CFD trades allow tax relief, whereas spread betting losses don't. Whether this represents an advantage to you depends on whether the ability to create or use a capital gains tax loss matters to an investor or not. If it does, if you are using the product for a hedge for example, and maybe even expecting to lose money on the hedge leg of the trade, you probably want CFDs. If you make a gain on the physical stock for tax purposes, you can offset the loss on the CFD hedge. You cannot do this on spread betting as it is a tax-free product. Finance charges on both are about the same, but they incur charges in different ways. CFDs incur charges on commissions, while spread betting doesn't. Instead, with spread betting, the difference between the bid and the offer is widened by adding a fixed markup to the price. Instead, with spread betting, the difference between the bid and offer price is widened by adding a fixed markup to the spread. This form of markup is also used on CFD indices, currencies, commodities and sectors. With spread betting, you must also enter a stake per point, as opposed to with CFDs, you enter the size. So, for instance, if opening a CFD position in NXT::LON, this would be quoted in the same way as if a normal share purchase was being made, i.e. buy 1,000 NEXT CFDs. With spread betting, you are technically betting on the price movement of the share measured in pounds per point movement, so the equivalent trade would be buy next at £10 per point, where a point is 1p movement in the share price. Essentially, however, the exposure is the same, and you buy if you think the price will rise or vice versa. Spread bets are denominated in sterling, making it easier in the UK. For example, if you wanted to place a spread bet on gold or an overseas security, your profits and losses would be valued in sterling. In contrast, CFDs are denominated in the currency of the market that they are being traded. For instance, the Nikkei or yen, or if you're trading in a Swedish product, the Swedish krona, and this will impact your overall profits or losses. Lastly, the prices for spread betting are synthetic, based on the market price but set by the provider. Yet a DMA CFD provider allows you to post anywhere within the bid offer spread. So, should you choose spread betting or CFD? Honestly, it really all comes down to personal choice. Let's examine how each of the products are priced. Unlike a spread betting firm which makes its money by widening the bid offer spread slightly wider than what is available on the market, a DMA CFD provider will charge a percentage commission on each trade. Typically this ranges from 0.13% to 0.3% for each trade. In this respect, the only real advantage to trading CFDs is the ability to trade directly on the order book. A problem with DMA CFD is that if you make multiple fills, these are charged at £10 a pop, and unless you are trading a minimum of £5,000 per trade, this will add up. However, the main difference I'd advise to decide with is how they are taxed. Some traders prefer CFDs because of direct market access, and due to being able to offset possible losses against taxable gains made somewhere else. All I advise is to think hard about which would suit you better.